Welcome to FoxTales Movie Club. I'm Sebastian Fox.
And I'm Tony Sherman. Each video we take a chosen movie and lead a discussion on our thoughts and opinions.
We will be getting into the character, plot, and technical achievements with no regard for spoilers.
So if you haven't seen this movie and don't want to hear said spoilers, you have been warned.
Also stick around to the end to hear the topic for our next video.
Today's movie is Paddington 2.
Paddington 2 is a movie that came out in 2018, directed by Paul King, composed by Dario... I tried saying this earlier. Dario Marianelli. Starring Ben Whishaw, Hugh Grant, Hugh Bonneville, Sally Hawkins, and Brendan Gleeson.
So, I wasn't really sure what to expect from the first one.
Yeah.
And even now, having watched the first one, I wasn't really sure what to expect from the second one, because I felt like the first one ended so nicely, right? We had this nice, happy ending for the first one. So coming to the second one, I was thinking, all right, where are they going to go? You know, how are they gonna do this next movie, the sequel? So I was kind of excited to see what they were gonna come up with.
Yeah, it was nice that they kind of built it off of. It's kind of built around Aunt Lucy, like her, because she wanted to come to London in the first movie, and now it's kind of dealing with that she didn't get to come.
Right.
And it opens kind of reminding us of Paddington's aunt and uncle.
Yeah, Uncle Pastuzo.
Yeah.
I feel like we could. I want to see more of him.
Yeah.
But we get a little bit of him in the first movie, and then just a little bit of him in the second one. Like, well, yeah, okay. I guess it's called Paddington, so I guess we get him.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Opens with Aunt Lucy, Uncle Pastuzo, and they say, they make a comment of, just think, in the next month we'll be in London.
Yeah.
So they've clearly made this plan of, we're going to be there. But very quickly lose out on being able to go there. And I think we talked about it in the previous video of where did Paddington come from? Like, why did they not give him an English name? They gave him a bear name, but not an English name. And I guess it's because, they just found him, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they're like, well, we'll just give him a bear name then, maybe he's...
Or he might have had a name at that point that
That's
he
true.
told them.
That's true, yeah.
But yeah, I like how this movie kind of bookends with Aunt Lucy.
Yeah.
She appears 4 times throughout the movie, mostly through not dream sequences, but like,
yeah, kind of like this. She's not actually there. Kind of. Yeah, it's a good question. Like what we would call that. But yeah.
But yeah, it has a nice bookend to it. Just opening with her relationship with Paddington, and then closing out the movie.
Right
there
with her relationship with Paddington. Yeah, exactly. So it was really nice to be able to see how they brought Paddington into the family there, and how when it cuts then to London, we can see how even though he left his bear family, he still has grown in this new family that he's found in London. And not just in his family, but in the community. Yeah. And I really, really liked how they just show little snippets of him interacting with all the different people on the street as he's heading out. And I thought it was, being able to see what kind of role he has in the community, especially with the theme from the previous movie, right? Of we have these strangers, these people that we don't really know about, and what do we want to do? Whether do we want to welcome them in or not? And so it's clear that everyone there seemed to accept Paddington, except for Mr. Curry, who still has some kind of vendetta, I guess, against Paddington.
Yeah, but I like kind of how it has that theme throughout the movie that Paddington is just he's so nice to people that he's able to find friends anywhere.
Yeah.
Because you see him doing that with the Colonel, because it's the Colonel even at the beginning of the movie isn't like...
That's true, yes.
He's not mean to Paddington, but he isn't like friendly to him either.
Yeah,
he's
just
kind of...
curt, just short, Yeah, it's like, okay. I think like he asked, it's a good day. He's like, oh, is it? I didn't notice or something like that. I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, I feel like we get the theme of the movie from the first one and from this one, I feel, from Aunt Lucy.
Yeah.
Because the first one, Aunt Lucy talking about go to London. They know how to take care of a stranger. And here we get, I'm trying to remember if we get it from Aunt Lucy's mouth or not, but Paddington mentions that Aunt Lucy always told him to look for the good in people, right? And I feel like that's kind of one of the themes that they develop in this movie, of, looking for the good in people and trying to find that. Then also on the flip side of that, being aware of the evil or bad that is in some people and how to try and minimize that in the people and try and develop and bring out the good rather than focusing on the bad or the evil.
So going back to the Brown family, I liked how they gave each of them a sort of thing that kind of introduces them at the beginning, and it all comes back at the end.
Yes.
But you have like Jonathan being called J-Dog and not liking steam trains.
Not liking the steam trains anymore, even though he built a fully functioning steam train in his bedroom. And we get Mrs. Brown wanting to swim the English Channel. We get
Judy in her newspaper, the Portobello Press.
Broke up with the boyfriend.
Yeah.
So makes the newspaper that does not allow for boys. And we get, I guess, Mr. Brown and his
midlife crisis.
Midlife crisis. Yeah. So even going to Mrs. Bird, we get a little bit of foreshadowing. I feel not necessarily something that comes back to her, but her pulling the coin from Paddington's ear, we get kind of that foreshadowing of there's going to be this element of magic that we see coming up throughout the movie.
Yeah, I mean, you could also say that that sort of small bit of sleight of hand is foreshadowing how she breaks out of the handcuffs later.
Oh, that's true. That's true too.
Maybe.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I really liked how we, kind of going back a second, how we got into London. Like when we went from Darkest Peru to London and we see the Browns' house and we see Paddington looking out the window.
Yeah.
I thought it was so... It's interesting how they do like the different like title cards and all that kind of stuff. And on this one, I felt was just so unique.
Yeah, so clever.
They had Paddington's name on the window, and he's wiping the steam off the window to be able to see outside. And of course, it just happens to make the two shape. And I was like, oh, well, that's really clever. That's really that's fun.
It's very good.
Yeah.
So then they go to this steam fair.
Yes.
Keeping that sort of fantastical feeling from the first movie, with it not just being a regular fair, but a steam fair.
Steam fair, yeah. So it's kind of these obscure kind of things that get brought up, I guess.
Yeah. But I also like how everything is kind of introduced through the steam fair, because the book is Kosova's book.
And it's her grandmother or whatever, I think it was, But
then Phoenix was introduced at the fair, and it just kind of all keeps coming back there, so it's just nice to kind of have that at the beginning and then just kind of have it as a through line.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and like even something that we get another kind of foreshadowing callback kind of thing, when Mr. Brown is talking about they're talking about the coconuts, and it has that flashback to him at a previous fair, and being able to throw the ball in order to hit the coconuts, and also the chacrobatics
Yeah.
was something that he was going through to try and help him in that midlife crisis where he's not the same man anymore. So trying to do this weird kind of yoga kind of thing.
Yeah. Never heard of chacrobatics.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Yeah. But at that Steam Fair, like you said, we get introduced to Phoenix and his interest in this pop-up book.
Yeah.
Right? This pop-up book that Paddington wants to get Aunt Lucy for her, I think, 100th birthday or something like that. I think he says 100, but I feel like his...
Might be in bear years.
Yeah, his either bear years or like his sense of time and age.
Yeah, he did think
off.
Mr. Brown was 80.
80 years old at least. So yeah, maybe he just doesn't really know the time scale there. But yeah, we get introduced to this pop-up book, and that whole sequence of when Paddington sees this pop-up book and envisions how Aunt Lucy would react to being able to see London through this pop-up book, I thought was this fascinating, just beautiful sequence.
Yeah, these movies have always done a great job of being able to get into Paddington's head, because the first one even had that one where he walked through the screen into Darkest Peru.
Mm-hmm.
But then this one has that scene of showing Aunt Lucy London.
Yes.
And then there's one that comes up later in the movie when he's in jail.
Right.
And he thinks everyone has abandoned him.
Right, yeah. And we get a rather touching moment there, a rather emotional scene when he's kind of at his lowest. I was reading about this pop-up book scene, and apparently they wanted to try and do it in the first movie, but kind of ran out of time and couldn't really figure out, okay, how do we want to like fit this into the movie? So they ended up just scrapping it for that first movie. So it was really nice that they had that opportunity to be able to put it into the second movie, because it definitely was a very cool scene where we had that three-dimensional kind of paper pop-up book pieces all moving around. And we even get Aunt Lucy commenting on the people of London. She says, "Oh, what a nice young man."
Yeah.
And then they're feeding the pigeon, goes, "Oh, what a nice young pigeon."
Yeah.
And it's like, the pigeons are back. So it's just like, this is so good. There's such a wonderful scene. So it was really, really a cool sequence that they put together there.
Yeah, going back to Phoenix, what did you think about him as a villain? How does he compare
to Millicent? Oh my goodness. So Millicent, I feel like, felt like a villain. Like she felt kind of evil, like, you know, Cruella de Vil. She's wanting to go and like capture this bear and stuff him. But I felt like her reasons and motivations felt very human, right? And she wanted to, you know, bring honor back to her father's name. For Phoenix, I felt like this guy is just so goofy. This guy, like, no one can take him seriously. He's just like this washed up actor. And then his motivations were, I guess, kind of the other end of the human scale, in that it was just greed. So it was like this complete avarice that he just wanted money to be able to have the pride and, you know, have the spotlight on him once again. So I felt like I couldn't really empathize with him too much, because like, I just can't. You're like, you're going about this so terribly. You have such, I felt sad for him.
Yeah, I do feel like that like exaggerated sense of him is just, it almost fits better with the whole again fantastical nature of the movies. I don't know.
It definitely does allow for some more of that kind of comedic to be able to play off as his character a little bit more. And I feel like they did try and do a little bit of that with Millicent in the first one. There are definitely some comedic points with her. Yeah,
it might just also be that Phoenix is he interacts with the Browns a lot earlier in the movie than Millicent does. Millicent is basically by herself until the third act.
Exactly, until near the end. So bringing him in much earlier, like even like when we're first introduced to him, that interaction between him and Paddington, where Paddington doesn't really know who he is, so he just parrots back what he heard from the Browns and what he heard from Mrs. Bird about, oh yeah, he's an actor, but he doesn't do anything more except for dog food commercials.
Yeah.
It's like, well, a man's got to eat. What,
Eat
dog
dog
food? So yeah, like being able to kind of play off of that, and thankfully Phoenix had the wherewithal to just kind of laugh that off.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, good. He's not just completely off, unhinged. So it was good.
So moving forward with the movie,
Uh-huh.
next scenes are the window cleaner scenes.
Yes. Yeah. We get Paddington trying to get a job in order to pay for the book, right? The
Yeah.
pop-up book. So he tries a barber shop.
Yeah. Doesn't go well.
Doesn't go well. And I felt like that scene at the barber shop was very reminiscent of the scene of him in the bathroom.
In the facilities.
In the facilities,
Yeah.
right? Where you had the hose of the shower,
Yeah.
and him like fighting this snake kind of thing, and then the similar kind of thing with the shaver, and having to kind of like fight against that. I felt like there were a lot of kind of parallels to that kind of that scene and that kind of idea of what they were going for there. But yeah, moving into the window washing, I felt like that was a much better fit for Paddington.
Yeah.
He could do that because again, it's him simply going out to the community and helping the people in the community, and
Yeah.
he's already good at that, right? So I thought it was really kind of nice to be able to see him continue to interact with those people in the community and open up to, like you said, the Colonel was just very short with him,
Yeah.
but then he
just washes his windows anyway.
yeah, washes the windows anyway, and you get that kind of both, I guess, metaphorical opening up, bringing light to the Colonel's light, and literally by washing the window and letting the sun in,
Yeah.
allowing for the Colonel to see the girl at the little news booth, the newspaper booth. So yeah, like making those connections, and then allowing for everyone that he touches to make further connections as well. So I thought that was really nice. Looking at the music during that scene, during the window washing scene, I thought it was really interesting that they had the little coins dropping into the jar
Yeah.
in time to the music. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. That like you see Paddington, popping from home to home as he's washing the windows, and you hear the little coin.
Yeah, they do
Hitting the
some
jar
some
like
things
that.
like that a few times in the movie, the composer,
Mhm.
because later during the escape, they have all the
Yes.
different clocks
The
playing
clock's
at the
ticking.
same time.
Yeah. Oh man. So I feel like the music in throughout this movie is just so well done.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that I kind of just gravitate to in all kinds of different movies, thinking about, okay, what kind of soundtrack, what kind of ambient music do we have, what kind of music do we have that, again, I got to figure out how to remember this word, but the diegetic
Yeah.
and the non-diegetic music, and like that's something that I think is just so fascinating, how that can be developed and really change the mood of how the audience connects, or what kind of emotions they have in the scene. So that was really nice. We even brought back the what did we call it? Kind of like the jazzy
Yeah, the
reggae.
Calypso band. or
Yeah,
something,
Calypso band. Yeah, they
Yep.
even brought them back.
Up on top of the skyscraper with Paddington,
Yeah.
washing the windows.
Yeah, so it's nice. It was
Yeah.
really good. So we get introduced to the villain, the antagonist, relatively early with Phoenix, and
Yeah.
I feel like they made it rather
Yeah,
obvious
pretty obvious.
that he's going to be this kind of force going against Paddington. When we have that, he reacts to hearing about this pop-up book, and then he's trying to figure out, where is this pop-up book? Where, I heard that it had gotten lost forever in time.
Yeah.
So we very quickly see, okay, well, what is Phoenix's plan to try and get to this book? And I don't know why Phoenix didn't try and like approach it a different way, or see, is there, rather than just trying to steal it, could I just look at the book and make notes of what I'm seeing? I just want to.
I mean, he might have
write
just
about
wanted other people not to figure it out and get to it first.
Yeah,
so
that's true. Yeah.
Then later you learn that he doesn't have any money, so he wouldn't have been able to buy the book anyway.
That's true. That's true. He had all of those debts that he couldn't take care of.
Spent too much on face cream.
Face cream. Yeah, which I guess Mr. Brown would be very close to falling into a similar trap with him in his midlife crisis. But so I guess there are some clues as to why he felt necessary to go and steal this book. And I don't really know the legal system there, but I have a feeling that, like, you would think that Mr. Gruber would be like, I don't think...
Well, it wasn't his book. It was Costello's book.
Oh, that's right.
She was selling it through
him.
Gruber,
okay. Okay, yeah. But I guess, I feel like there's no grace.
Yeah.
Poor little Paddington. And again, they charge him for... the theft of this book that Phoenix takes.
Whatever, grievously barbarly
harm. Yeah. Against shaving the back of the judge's head when he was trying to work at the barber shop. So we get this really interesting kind of chase sequence.
Yeah.
And it's something that, through the use of the pop-up book, we go to all these different locations, all these landmarks in London. And so here in this chase sequence, we also kind of go through this park where we're getting another one of these sequences, running through some of these landmarks and seeing this river.
Yeah.
And so I thought it's really interesting how, like, in the first one, we saw it and Paddington sees it, and they did that through the cab ride. And so here they continue this process of, let's explore London and show off London through all these different manners.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was a cool idea that they were able to do that again in this movie. Make it feel like they weren't just forcing it.
Yeah. And even Paddington's connection to the community extends to this stray dog that he rides upon in order to chase the burglar, in order to chase the hobo dressed up Phoenix. Which is so strange that Phoenix has all these different costumes. It's almost like he is starting to lose his sense of self. That, even when he's back in his I don't remember what he called it.
Secret attic.
His secret attic, yeah.
It's just a regular attic.
It's just a regular attic, yeah. But he has like dozen or so of these different costumes.
Yeah, and he's talking to them, having conversation with himself.
With himself through the costumes. It's like, okay, he's definitely starting to lose it. I was trying to pick up on all the who are these different characters, and some of them I was able to recognize, and some of them they mentioned, but they had Hamlet, and I think they had
Poirot.
So they had all these different people. I was like, oh, this is really nice to kind of see all these different characters that he played in the past, I guess.
Then after a short trial where the judge is the guy that Paddington caused the grievous barbarly harm to.
Accidentally.
Seems kind of like what's the word? Conflict of interest or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's how can you can just tack on this? Yeah, I'm going to you're going to charge you with shaving my head bad.
Paddington gets sent to prison.
Yeah. Yeah. For 10 years.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Is this really happening? Yeah. So I was I was talking to some other people about this movie that hadn't seen it, and I'm explaining to them how and Paddington gets sent to prison, and it has to go and talk with the chef about the food, and they're like, you've got to be kidding. There's no way. You're making this up. There's no way this is true. I'm like, no, yeah, that's what happens in the movie. He actually goes to jail. He actually goes to prison. What?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a kids movie sequel.
Yeah, yeah, that's what they said. They said, what is this teaching our kids? We're having a prison scene? I was like, yeah, it's actually like a big part of the movie is him in prison. Like, okay, yeah. But I feel like they definitely approach it differently than maybe like the darker kind of like Orange is the New Black kind of scenes, or like some of the Breaking Bad prison scenes and some of these other television shows and movies that deal with prisons. They definitely don't. They still treat it like it's a kids movie and treat it comedically. And do pretty well.
They have like that one other guy that's kind of saying he's gonna do something to Paddington, but past him, it's mostly just more friendly. Yeah, and even the guard, who I guess like I thought he was just a guard, but maybe he's the warden.
Yeah,
he was a warden.
So like I feel like he came across as just like watching them like a guard, but I feel like I mean you see him there at the desk and everything, so I guess he's the warden. But when Paddington goes up, I was like, I'm going to go complain about the food. Because you can't eat this. We have to have better food. Yeah. And the warden calls, we're going to need a medic. Instead of like preventing any of it, he's like, I'm just going to stand here and, when the medic gets here, we'll be good. And then once Paddington squirts ketchup and then tries to get the ketchup out by squirting mustard all over Knuckles McGinty's apron, the wardens cancel that. We're gonna need a priest instead. So I was like, yeah, they definitely don't really treat this super seriously. They're treating it very comedically. But I felt like there were several characters that we end up getting introduced into in the jail, where it just continues to be this theme of look for the good in people. That Paddington connected so well with the community when he was living with the Browns. He ends up in this new place where so many people are upset at him because he turned all their clothes pink. Yeah. That's another scene. But he very quickly makes amends and befriends everyone there in the prison. So it's astounding how easily he lives to this ideal of look for the good in people, and he then connects with all those people. Yeah. And you really see it with like the changes in the prison where they're eating all the sweets in the cafeteria instead, and then even in the main section you see them do all the prisoners jumping rope and playing chess, rope and and putting up a banner, the banner prison sweet prison, and they have the little flower pots that they put up, which I think when Paddington is first like trying to reach out to one of the inmates, he asks like, fancy starting a gardening club, and he's what? How does he respond? He's like, I'd rather.
How would you like to be buried in a very deep hole or something?
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. But then through the development of the food and making connections with the inmates of who here knows these different recipes, we get all of these different foods that then allow for these pastries to be made, and we get welcome to Aunt Lucy's tea shop, or what do they call it? I think it's tea shop.
Something like that.
Something like that. I think I wrote it down. Tea room. Aunt Lucy's tea room. Yeah. And I was like, they change it from this kind of very gloomy prison to he turns everyone's uniforms, I guess, pink, to try and
adds a lot of color.
Adds color, brightens up the place, and then he actually does go so far as to actually brighten up the place, and everyone's moods follow. But
it does still have that sort of weight to it, where it's not like this is where Paddington can live now.
Yes, of course.
It's still kind of, he has that wanting to get back to the Browns, and the movie's able to portray that very well. Yeah. And while Paddington's here, the Browns are looking for this hobo. That they have a drawing of, since Paddington described
it. Yeah, described the hobo. described him.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, that's better.
Oh gosh.
I'll just turn the page.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, all better. Kinda, sorta.
Sorry.
Okay, so we get them putting up the posters of this hobo saying, "Have you seen this person? Wanted for questioning of this burglary of the pop-up book." And we see all the Browns hanging up the signs throughout the city, and I think it was Jonathan
Putting it in
put it
Paddington's
in the name
yeah.
Paddington.
Yeah.
And we get to Mr. Brown hanging up, and I think to myself, he's only going to be hanging up one. He's only going to hang up one poster and be like, that's good. I did my duty. And so, like, you see him, he puts up one poster. I'm like, he did. And then the camera shifts, and you just see it completely covering an entire wall. I was like, oh, okay. So he did much more than one. He did much more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, so like the first movie, he was the one who's so against Paddington staying with the family, and now he's completely enraptured and taken up the fact that they're taking care of this young bear cub.
Yeah.
So it was good.
But then Mrs. Brown starts figuring things out.
Yeah.
With Mr. Gruber wondering why he went for the book, why the robber went for the book rather than just running out the door.
Right, grabbing jewelry or just leaving.
Yeah,
right?
So she was able to figure out that when they went to talk to Mrs. Koslova. Yeah, I think it was like Koslova.
I don't know. Oh, dear.
But yeah, they were able to figure out about the treasure, and she figured out that there were clues.
Yeah, leading to this fortune.
And that Feathers knew who it was the entire time.
The entire time. Yeah. The parrot. Feathers the parrot? You're yeah. So it's again, we get one of the things that Mrs. Bird mentions about how actors are these inherently bad people.
They lie for a living.
Lying for a living, yeah. And so this idea of look for the good in everyone, but also be aware of the bad that can be in people. Yeah. And so everyone is so charmed by Phoenix that like even Mr. Brown, it's like he's this perfect person. He's this celebrity. He was this actor, and he's a platinum club member.
Yeah.
Like, so everyone is just so taken by him, except for Mrs. Bird and Mrs. Brown, who recognize that there's something going on deeper than Phoenix is showing. So.
Yeah, also with Mr. Brown not believing this, it kind of sets up this conflict between them. Where in the first movie they had the conflict over, the couple had the conflict over whether to trust Paddington or not. This one has whether this theory is too outlandish or not. So it's still, their relationship. I really like the relationship there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this conflict just really brings out how well the two actors work together.
Yeah, because it definitely does feel very real, where it's like that is how a wife and husband would react, or like they have these, I don't know, I wouldn't go so hard as to say arguments, but they have these ideas that are conflicting, and they're like trying to discuss and talk out. What do we do about this? And sure, sometimes they kind of go behind each other's back. Like in the first one, Mrs. Brown goes and, is trying to learn more about the explorer. Yeah. And so
or this one, she breaks into Buchanan's house.
Breaks into Phoenix Buchanan's house, yeah. But what I really liked was that Mr. Brown goes and like kind of rescues her, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like goes like, what in the world are you doing? This is breaking and entering. And then is able to kind of like help give a reason why they're there.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're part of the Platinum Club members. We give you this this individualized look at your home and security and all that. Except you're in your pajamas when you're doing. Well, is that plausible? Is it? Maybe. So yeah, it's a very nice relationship between Mr. and Mrs. Brown. That I don't know if it's something that is special about here being this British story that is kind of based off of, whereas you might get something else if you look at some American couples. But I don't know. Maybe Americans just want more direct conflict. I don't know.
So in figuring out all of this information, the Browns miss Paddington's visiting hours.
Yes, trying to gather all the clues,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Which we had talked about, leading to the lowest moment for Paddington, where he finally becomes willing to go along with
the escape plan.
The escape plan, yeah.
Right? Because he was that Knuckles McGinty and some of the others were saying, "We're planning this escape. We can get you out and try and clear your name," but Paddington was so certain. No, the Browns are going to be there for me. They're going to figure it out, and we're good. And so once they miss the visitation, he thinks they have forgotten me. And again, kind of like the pop-up book sequence, we get another one of these kind of these images, this visual sequence that is, again, just so stunning and so cool that they put together, of him just sitting in his little bed and a single tear falling from his face and rolling down and landing on the floor. And then as it falls between the cracks of the wooden floor, we see a plant start growing.
Yeah.
And so this sequence of this entire forest growing, and then we get to see him running through this forest as he sees his Aunt Lucy, and he tells her the truth of what's really happened.
Yeah.
Because when he first got to prison, he
said it was a period piece.
It. Yeah.
It's very well protected.
Very, very well protected, yeah. So decides, I'm going to be honest with her and tell her I'm in prison. And I feel like this scene, again, like there are certain scenes where I just will get goosebumps thinking about them. And so like here, both in terms of the visuals and in terms of the musical soundtrack, I felt like it fits so perfectly to create this emotional, cathartic response. And with the music, we get this very tension-filled
it just
chord
feels like
structure.
It's building up to something continually.
And I was, as I was listening to it, I'm thinking, okay, where's this chord sequence going? Where's it going? What is it going to fall on? And it almost felt like this shepherd tone were just rising and rising and rising.
Yeah.
And they keep building. And when I was looking at the actual music, there were times when they got to the resolution, the tonic chord.
Yeah.
But I'm listening to it, I'm like, it still doesn't sound right. So even though they technically got to that chord, because it kept moving, it never felt like that resolution. And so it's like this whole building of this chord as the Paddington theme is playing, this version of the Paddington theme is playing, and it keeps building and building. And even once it ends and the jungle vanishes and we see Paddington still standing there in the prison cell, it ends on this, I think it's the 4 chord, where it doesn't actually resolve. It has this suspension, but then stops.
Yeah. So
it doesn't, you still are stuck kind of like anticipating that resolution that hadn't come yet. But this next sequence brings back the another very cool sequence that I can just see this playing perfectly if it were like some kind of stage play almost, where we see Paddington going along with the escape, right? We see the prison open up, just like we saw the house open up, the Browns' house open up to show all the different rooms. Here we see it again and we see the prison opening up, and we see the 4 prisoners jumping down from their cells and crawling through, and that whole sequence of that escape was so interesting, so unique, that I was like, I don't even know how to describe my thoughts about it. It was just so interesting.
Yeah, very well done sequence. The music with all the different clocks that we mentioned before, definitely very good.
Yes, yeah. So it was like that. We started with that clock kind of piece, that escape tick-tock, and so like we're getting this. Okay, we have this pacing and we have this timing that we have to follow.
Yeah.
But then once they actually get out and they're setting up the hot air balloon that they're going to use for their escape, which of course, no one sees them escape with this hot air balloon until it's too late. But the instant that they light the hot air balloon and they start taking off, we go back into that same theme that we had with the jungle music when he was in the jail. And we actually get that resolution at the end of that piece. So we don't get the resolution when he's still in the jail, but once he's actually gone through with the escape and safely landed with the other inmates outside of the prison, we finally resolve that chord, and we get this nice kind of ending to that Paddington theme, where we get back to it and we finally get that nice resolution. So it was like just that 4 or 5 minute sequence with the jungle scene of Paddington envisioning darkest Peru, seeing his Aunt Lucy, being honest with her, the escape sequence of them trying to sneak out and get all the necessary resources, and then the actual hot air balloon scene of them getting out and then finally landing safely outside the prison. I thought that was just such a great group of scenes that they put together there.
Yeah. And then after he gets out, Knuckles reveals that he was kind of lying to Paddington, saying that he was going to help clear his name, but they're just wanting to run.
Yeah, flee the country.
Yeah, but Paddington doesn't want to leave the Browns, so he runs off by himself and tries to call them, but they don't pick up. It kind of leads to this is like really his lowest moment of he finally spent that coin that he had been saving in his ear and just doesn't really have anywhere to go. But then the phone rings and he's able to get back.
Right. So it's kind of like if that phone hadn't rung, what would he have done, I wonder? And so it's like they just created a little bit extra tension by not having the phone ring, or not having the phone be picked up by the Browns, in order to kind of see, he was so close and now he's just kind of stuck. What do we do next? I also thought the actual phone call was very interesting in that he runs out of time just as he said, I was just waiting to call to say, and then the line cuts and then he says goodbye. So it's I feel like they could have done without the phone call, but then he wouldn't have used the coin that they had earlier on in the movie, and they wouldn't have gotten that moment of him attempting to say goodbye and not being able to. But thankfully, all works out, and the Browns very quickly bring him back at the payphone.
And then that leads into the third act with everyone heading towards Paddington Station. To try and catch a train. Yeah. So they get onto this train, the same train from the steam fair. And it brings back the steam trains that Jonathan's into.
Right. Yeah. And the whole reason why they're going to the steam train is because Phoenix Buchanan has solved all the clues and found out, after he's visited all the different landmarks, that all the letters that he found were musical notes that if you apparently play on this piano organ thing.
It's like you push the foot pedal things or something to do it, so not really an organ.
It'll open up the treasure box.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. And so he goes and sneaks onto the train and tries to run away with the treasure. But of course, Paddington gets onto the train, and Jonathan and Mr. and Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Bird and Jonathan's sister Judy. I was like, not Lucy, that's someone else. Judy, all get onto the other train to be able to try and chase after them. I feel as if, and I didn't actually fact check this or double check this, but I feel like the notes that he was playing in the weird organ thing weren't the notes he was saying. Yeah. Because like the first couple notes he played sounded okay, but then the last two he played sounded off. Yeah. So I feel like they're just like saying the notes that they wanted and just had to sound. But I feel like
I think they were close enough that there might have been like a sharp or a flat, but they weren't that bass note.
Because I think the last two, I think he said were C and E, and except instead of being a major third, which C and E should be, it sounded like it was a minor third. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking maybe it was a C sharp, like you said. Maybe it was just a C sharp and E. Who knows? I don't know. It's a small little fake organ that's not even an organ apparently. It's just a little push black and white keys thing. So who knows? But yeah, we get a lot of the different callbacks that we kind of hinted at earlier.
Yeah, I like how
kind of coming to fruition here.
Like how Judy uses her camera a lot in this last scene, where she's able to zoom in to see what Paddington's doing on the other train, and then take the picture as evidence
of Phoenix.
And
and we get Mr. Brown trying to sneak from the one steam train to the other train, and gets stuck between the two of them, and pulls the Van Damme splitting the legs, the acrobatics. Of course, Mrs. Bird pulls him safely onto the train all the way, and we get the candied apples that Paddington had when he first went to the fair and was trying to eat the candied apple and was just too sticky for him. That also comes back when he's trying to like do the whole like Mission Impossible thing that just like he did in the first one. Like, oh man, this is so wonderful.
Phoenix finally remembers Mrs. Bird's name.
Yeah, I was like, was he faking this whole time, or did he actually just like finally remember it? Who knows? But when he realizes that Paddington has stolen the book and is trying to Paddington's now trying to run away with this book, Phoenix says, where are you gonna go?
Yeah,
it's a train.
It comes to an end.
And we get the line that I've been waiting for this entire movie, the whole exit pursued by bear.
Yeah.
Except they changed it. They changed it just a little bit.
Exit bear pursued by an actor.
Right. Except he falls through the top. They pull open part of the train before he can really finish the line.
Which that line was in the first one too. When Paddington flies by Judy's school, they say, or the teacher's talking about Shakespeare, and she says the line of exit pursued by, and then Judy says Paddington.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's good. That's great. But this whole train sequence, we also get once Phoenix appears to have been caught by Judy and Mr. Brown and Mrs. Bird, he overpowers them by grabbing a sword and handcuffs them all to the carousel horses. And like you said, we kind of get a little bit of that callback of Mrs. Bird having the sleight of hand of being able to unlock the handcuffs. So we have that. We have Judy taking the picture of Phoenix. And then we also have
coconuts.
Coconut. Mr. Brown. Coconuts are a young man's game.
Yeah.
And he's actually able to throw the coconut through what looks like several train cars. Not just like across one train car, but through like several train cars. And knock poor little Phoenix Buchanan out. I was expecting, and I think you even commented, and I was thinking, like, he hits him in the head, and instead of falling backwards, then out of the train, he ends up getting hit, but falls forward.
Yeah.
And like, I guess they didn't want to have, someone fall backwards. Because
out of a moving train.
Out of a moving train, yeah. Because with Millicent, she fell off of that building, but then she was saved because there was that little, like, flagpole or something. So, like, here they couldn't say, oh, yeah, he, like, grabs hold of something at the last second because they're right there on the ground.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really be able to grab anything. So, yeah, they just have to fall forward.
Yeah.
That's better.
But not before he sends Paddington into the river.
Yes.
And brings back Mrs. Brown's wanting to swim the English Channel, so she knows how to jump into the
She has the lung capacity.
Yeah.
I'm, like, watching this, like, how in the world is she and Paddington still down there?
Yeah.
And, like, this scene just keeps going and going. Massive lung capacity from the two of them. But yeah, so we get them trying to break Paddington out. And because of the lock and chain that are on the door, they're unable to until we get Knuckles, McGinty, and crew returned to try and rescue their friend that they made of Paddington and pulling him out of the river. So we're getting very close to the end of the movie.
Yeah. Basically one more scene before the end credits. Very touching scene. Paddington wakes up back home on Aunt Lucy's birthday. And he didn't get her anything.
Didn't get her a present. And so, she did so much for him growing up. She wanted to be able to give something back. And he wasn't able to. But the Browns tell him, well, let's go downstairs. And we have some people waiting to see you.
Yeah.
And this, I guess, karma, if you want to call it that, his connection to all the people in the community brings them to Paddington and says, we have the Colonel and the newspaper girl saying, you brought us together.
Yeah.
And we had, I'm trying to remember the other two ladies. I don't remember where they were from, but we get these two ladies who mention what Paddington has done for them. And so they say, we want to do something for you. And Mrs. Brown mentions, wanted to get this book so that Aunt Lucy could see London through the book. Well, there's probably a better way to see London.
Yeah.
And then there's a knock on the door. And of course, my initial thought was, oh, it's Mr. Curry.
Yeah.
He's come like, all right, Bear, you've done enough. Time to end this. But no, alas, we just get the happy ending that we all deserved. And we find his Aunt Lucy there at the door. And we get a very nice, touching reunion of Ant and Bear Cub as the music swells.
Yeah. And then there is one more scene as the credits roll where Phoenix gets sent to jail.
Yes.
And he says he'll spend his time thinking about what he did wrong.
Yeah. And he's a disgrace to the actor community.
Yeah.
And he just, of course, plays it all over the top with this wailing of his, this crying.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get this perfect end credit, or I guess not even end credits, but this perfect musical sequence right at the credits. But again, just continues to top the absurdity of this movie. I can't say I was surprised to really see this at the end.
Yeah. But he has kind of a bit of an arc, if you read into it, of not being able to work with people because he thinks other actors bring him down. But he's able to finally have this entire production with the other people in the prison.
He shares the spotlight. Yeah. And of course, it ends with huge letters of his name being spelled out. So I guess, he still does have a lot of the spotlight on him, but at least he's not a one-man show anymore. At least he was willing to let the others in on this. So, I guess we do see some amount of character growth from Phoenix Buchanan, who for the longest time I thought they were saying Felix. So it took me a little bit of time to realize, oh wait, I'm just terrible at hearing what name they're saying. But yeah, the ending of a great movie, and here's to the third one, which is coming out. Dun, dun, dun.
And that will do it for this video. We'd like to thank Mel Eastep for creating our theme.
And join us in the comments section below to go over any other questions and add to the discussion of this movie.
And subscribe so you don't miss our next video, where we are going to be discussing the movie Jurassic Park.
Thanks for watching. This has been FoxTales Movie Club. I'm Tony.
And I'm Fox, and we will see you in the next video.